Hi. I can't think of another British bird that I've had less personal experience of than the nightjar. I've read all the books, I know all the facts about nightjar, and I know plenty of photographers that have photographed them and described how they've done it, but my own personal experience, very close to zero. I've only actually photographed nightjar once before, and I can think of two reasons for this. First of all, it's 40 miles from my home to my nearest nightjar location, and at 8 o'clock of an evening I don't really feel like driving 40 miles to go and struggle to see a bird in the dark. And then you're coming home about 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, so it's an 80-mile round trip. And the second reason is I don't actually like being out in the dark very much. I can be out in the field from dawn to dusk, but as soon as it starts to get dark I have a strong desire to go home. But this year I've decided to put a bit more effort into nightjars. So this is my 11th evening now. I've also been here during the day. So this morning I was here for about 4 hours just wandering about. I've got the thermal imager, the pulsar here, and what I'm doing during the day is using this to see if I can spot a nightjar sitting out on an open branch, because they do that. It can be at various heights, it can be at ground level or it can be high up in the trees. But when they sit on a branch, they sit along the length of the branch. So the branch is like that, the bird is sitting lengthwise along it. And they're very well camouflaged, so your chances of seeing it are pretty slim, unless you've got a thermal imager. So I've been trying that several days. I've had a go at it. I haven't found one, although the very first time I tried it, and within about 10 minutes of trying, I thought I'd found one.
It was definitely a heat source, and it seemed to be lying along the length of a branch. Trouble is, when you're not looking through the thermal imager, you can't see where it is. So I kept moving towards it 10 meters at a time, checking the thermal imager, until eventually I was able to see it was a grey squirrel lying along the length of a branch, sleeping.
I've been using the thermal imager overnight as well, and sometimes I get very good views with the thermal imager. On this track where I'm sitting now, one of the first nights I was here, there was a nightjar on the floor, not very far away from me, although it's hard to judge distance when you're looking through a thermal imager. But it kept flying up, presumably catching a moth, going back down to the floor again, and it did this repeatedly. I can see it perfectly clearly in the thermal imager, but of course as soon as you take your eye away from that, it's just pitch black and you couldn't see the bird. So how would you actually go about photographing it? One of the other things I've been looking for is a nightjar sitting on an exposed branch up in the air against the sky, and then I wanted to video that as a silhouette against the sky.
So here we are at dusk. We've got a hunting kestrel in the last bit of light, a woodcock. Once you see a woodcock go round once, the chances are it will come round again. So here it is on the second pass. A deer species. This will be fallow deer, just because of the location I'm in. Fallow deer are very common, roe deer extremely rare. And it's quite clearly not a muntjac. And there it is, a nightjar, and it was churring. I'm a bit distant, so I'm not 100% it's a nightjar, 99%, but not 100%. So we go a little bit closer, have a better look. Yes, definitely a nightjar. Now I can get the normal camera out and start doing some backlit shots against the sky. Once the bird starts to chirp, it can be there for 5-10 minutes and it will come back. They have a favourite perch or perches and they go round in a circuit, but they keep coming back to the same one. In that tree there were 3 very similar perches like this, very close together. It only ever landed on this one.
Once I got the video, I then turned my attention to some stills pictures. So the bird was still there, still on the branch. I ran the video long enough, so now I swap over, put it into stills mode, and I've got to use flash. Now it's no good putting the flash gun on the hot shoe here, because you'll get the equivalent of red eye. Do you remember red eye? If you photograph someone at a party indoors with flash, they'd have a horrible red eye. With birds, or certainly with nightjar, you get a white eye. And it's not a small bit of white eye, it's massive, and it's going to completely spoil the shot. I know that from previous experience when I have managed to get some pictures of nightjar. Not very many, but I have done them in the past. So I had the flash gun on a flash stand, but I got it all set up and I powered the flash gun on, nothing happened. It was dead, and the batteries were fresh. It shouldn't have been the batteries. I messed about with it for about 10 minutes in the dark. It's a bit fiddly. You take the batteries out, check you got them the right way around. Very time consuming, and it was just dead. So I couldn't take any pictures. I went home and I tried new batteries. Well, I put a meter on the batteries I'd got, and that was it. The flash gun was written off. So I haven't got time to get it repaired, so I went onto eBay. I found another one. This is the 900 model, the OM 900 FR or FL, I can't remember which. I was lucky, there was one on eBay for about £240 from a shop, so they posted it and I got it the next day. So then I went out again and I sat in exactly the same place. The bird came in, but what I'd forgot to do is I forgot the cable. If I've got the flash on a flash stand, I have to have a cable linking the two up. This is an old cable, it's a Canon one. I used to use it with my Canon gear, so it's quite old, but it works just as well with any camera system, I imagine. So it works with the OM system. And so I couldn't fire the flash. So I took one picture with the flash gun on the hot shoe so I can show you how awful the white eye looks. And it's not just the eye that burns out, the whole head is just in flare of the white light.
As I zoom in, you can see that the flare from the white eye has gone over the bird's head and spoilt the feather detail, and it's even gone into the blackness of the sky. So I can't get rid of that very easily in Photoshop. So I carried on taking video because I thought, that's it for tonight. I can't do any more. Or could I?
So I'm cursing myself for my stupidity of forgetting the cable, and then I had a brainwave. I don't get very many of those, but I had one. I put the camera into bulb mode. That means when you hold the shutter button down, the shutter opens and it stays open until you let the shutter button go. Then it closes the shutter. So what I've got to do now, it's in the dark, so it's going to be a long exposure, but it's so dark that won't matter. I want to keep it less than a second if I can. While I've got that shutter open for 1 second, what I've got to do now is hold the flash gun up here somewhere and just press the button. It will go off at full power, and from the distance I'm at, I'm hoping that will be the right exposure, which it was. I was able to test it on the branch before the bird landed there, and it looked like it was the right exposure. I've just got to synchronize myself. I've got to hold that button down, the shutter button down, and then press the button on the flash and then let go of the camera button.
Now I actually held the flash gun at arm's length, and what did I get? Red eye instead of white eye, but quite an improvement. Although it's got red eye, it hasn't affected the plumage around the eye. So in Photoshop I used the red eye removal tool, which was hopeless, had no effect whatsoever. So I had to use the clone tool. Took about 2 minutes, but I was able to turn that red eye back into the black eye that it should be. And for my 11 nights in the field, that's the only picture I've got so far. And I might give up for this year and pick up on this project next year, or at least the nocturnal side of it. I'm still going to try and find one in the daylight. The picture's a little bit small in the frame, and I don't like to crop my images, so next time I want to be a bit larger too. But thanks for watching.